welcome back to my channel. And today I wanted to talk about tips for how to be better at writing. I was actually on my way home in an Uber recently, asking, how my day was going. And he was like, yeah, I really want to get better at writing. What are some tips? It kind of inspired me to do a video about this. There are some people that it just naturally, they're good writers, they're good communicators, and other people just need help to kind of develop that skill. It is a skill and a craft, and so it does take time to be good at it. Even if it's something that you have to work on, I think with time and effort you can get better at it. And so I just have some 5 tips and advice for people that are thinking about how to be better at writing. The first one is just to be specific about what type of writing you're going to be doing. And I think just from step 1, this is probably the most important thing, because business writing or legal writing is totally different than creative writing or writing for film, writing for screen, nonfiction, poetry. Those are all totally different areas. And so a lot of people get confused and say, oh, I'm a really good creative writer. How come I'm not good at legal writing or business writing? It's because there's just different requirements. If you're writing an email, if you're writing a business letter, a resume, there's sort of strict guidelines, and you want to make sure that if that's the type of writing that you're doing, that you're following those guidelines. You can find those by looking online. There's different resources that are specific to those topics. If you're doing more creative writing, if you're doing more poetry, there's a little bit more leeway in terms of how you can do that. If it's more free form, if it's poetry, you can really push the boundaries and sort of what's acceptable. And I think the best poets, they have that experience of they know the basics, and so they're just trying and experimenting, which is great. But for the beginner, I think it's really good to get just a basic solid foundation about technique. And so just really identifying the type of writing that you're doing is so important. You want to make sure that it's the right form, because even if you have a good message and you're a good communicator, if you're not in the right form, the right setting, it's going to come across differently. Yeah, it may go over well, or maybe you may get some compliments, but you want to make sure that you're meeting your audience. They're getting what they're expecting, so to speak. Usually, even for myself, I don't like to say, hey, these are clear, distinct boundaries that you need to follow. I'm not about that, but I think that's just the reality of what the audience expects. The form and the setting are appropriate for your intention. The second thing is hone your message. So what do you want to say? What is the content of what you're going to say? The best way to do that is to get feedback from people. Read it for somebody or send it to them, get their feedback and say, hey, what are you getting from this? What's your take on this? If you had to, summarize it, what would you say? You'll get a good idea of how it's coming across. And so just gauging the reaction is important. You want to make sure that your message is connecting with people. And sometimes if it's not hitting the mark, you can adjust it. You can use that feedback in a productive way to make sure that your message is being heard. The third thing is get feedback from people that are experts in this field. And so like I said before in the first tip that I had, you want to make sure that it's the right form. Get feedback from people that are experts in that form. And so whether it's a tutor, whether it's a teacher, whether it's a professor, you want to make sure that you're getting their feedback, because it is worth a little bit more. And this is distinct from the second part where I'm saying getting feedback from people to gauge how your message is hitting. This is more looking at the technical aspects. And so, yeah, you can go to your family members, your friends, and see what their reaction is. But that's different than going to somebody that's an expert and somebody that is experienced in this field, because that's valuable as well. You want to make sure that you're getting the advice and you're getting wisdom from people that have experience in this field. Knowledgeable feedback is important, so that way you know how to improve. This is just going to help you not just for the project that you're working on, but also in the future. It's going to build your skills in that regard. The fourth thing is just to look for outside resources, whether it's taking a class, whether it's looking at videos on YouTube. There's a lot of online courses that are available now for free even. I use Coursera. On their websites, they'll have free classes that are available that are just there for public use. And they cover a variety of topics. This is not sponsored, by the way. I'm just talking about something that I use. It's really helpful to kind of just get a refresher. So maybe even you're experienced in writing and you just kind of want a refresher course. This is a good way to kind of warm those skills up, to sort of get back into it, it's always going to be beneficial for you. Even if you have a lot of experience, just getting reacquainted with the subject is going to help you out as well. And lastly is just to read other writers. And so this can go across different types of writing. You know, if you're really into poetry, maybe you want to try reading novels or nonfiction or memoirs or something like that. Read magazines, read blogs. They're all going to have a different style and a different way to communicate their message. And it's not good or bad. That's just the different forms that it takes. And so exposing yourself to a lot of different types of writing is just going to help you out as well. I have my favorite authors, my favorite writers, and I try to model certain projects off of their own work. I use that as inspiration for myself. Exposing yourself to a lot of different material is just going to help you as well. It's going to make you a better writer, and it's going to give you ideas for your own projects. Those are my 5 tips on how to be a better writer. I know it can be a tough task for some people, even if you aren't maybe a natural writer, but it's something you want to be good at. It's going to help you out in your job, in your career. I mean, everybody has to write emails these days. That's just part of life now, is, you know, writing a good email. And you're like, okay, I don't want to make sure that this email is good. It's important. Maybe you're applying for a job or something like that. And you're like, I really need to write a good email. You know, doing these steps, taking these steps is just going to help you be better at that. Those are my tips for today. I hope this is helpful in some way. I know that this is a big topic for a lot of people, whether you're a student, whether you're a professional. Your writing is going to be important. And so hopefully these provided some guidelines, some tips that are going to help you with your own writing. So appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. I hope you enjoyed it. And would love to hear what are some projects that you're working on. What are some steps that you like to take to become a better writer? Like, do you have any favorite books, favorite authors that you look to kind of inspire you? I would love to get that feedback as well. So thank you so much for watching. I hope this was helpful, and see you next time. Bye.